Just Energy. Today we'll be speaking with Dr. Robert Davis about his work with FREE, the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. The goal of FREE is to initiate scientific investigation through surveys and interviews on individuals who have had UFO-related experiences with non-human intelligent beings, and eventually to compare the UFO experiencer group with individuals that have had other types of paranormal contact experience, such as near-death experiences, ethnogenic natural substance experience, hypnotic regression, mystical meditation, channeling, remote viewing, and human contacts with non-human intelligence and related paranormal contact experiences. Thus, the focus is not solely researching UFO contact experiences, but on all types of paranormal contact experiences. Dr. Robert Davis is an internationally recognized scientist in his field and served as a professor at the State University of New York for over 30 years. He advocates for the need to advance our understanding of the phenomena through the development of a government structure to provide the necessary leadership, direction, and related resource support for a multidisciplinary team of leading scholars to study the phenomena. He has written a book entitled The UFO Phenomena, Should I Believe?, and has appeared on many radio shows discussing UFOs. His website is theufophenomena.com. The website for FREE is experiencer.org. So please welcome Dr. Robert Davis. Hey, Bob, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's a pleasure to be on your excellent show again.
Well, I think it's great to have you back on again. I mean, you were on the last time we talked about your book, UFOs Should I Believe? But today we're going to be talking about FREE, the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. I have to tell you, that's a mouthful. But what got you started working with this group?
After I wrote my book, I appeared on radio shows. Members of the board of directors listened to me speak, and for whatever reason in their mind, they thought I should be brought on board. And I'm very happy to do so because it's very, very interesting research that we are doing with experiencers.
And so how much, why don't you talk a little bit about FREE? You know, what's their focus? You know, what's their history? Whatever you can throw out there about it.
The foundation began just a few years ago, and it is comprised of many scientists like myself, who has a background in neuroscience, Dr. Rudy Shield, a professor of astrophysics at Harvard, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth person to walk on the moon, also was a contributing founder of this organization. He has since passed away. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, a noted researcher in the paranormal, as well as Mary Rodwell, are also on the board of directors. We have Dr. John Climo, a noted psychologist, among other scientists who are joining me in conducting research on thousands of individuals who claim to have conscious recall of their upfront and personal contact, so to speak, with UFOs and non-human intelligence. And we have been involved in conducting surveys with, and thus far we have obtained responses from over 2,300 individuals. We are now getting qualitative, descriptive reports from 70 questions, open-ended questions that we are now in the process of analyzing. And we will then interview these over 800 individuals who have responded in a descriptive way. We will be conducting interviews of approximately 50 to 100 people to get even a more in-depth understanding of the nature of their experience. So it is an evolving process. It's going worldwide. We are beginning to do this study in France, Russia, Germany, Latin America. It's an ongoing, continuous effort. So the data pool will increase substantially, and the results thus far, which are not firmly conclusive in nature, are nevertheless quite intriguing and revealing.
Well, what is the hope? What is the outcome? You're doing these surveys and getting questions answered, but what's the end result? What's the golden ring at the end of this whole process?
That's certainly a very reasonable question. It remains to be seen. But the bottom line here is to not continue studying this unique phenomenon in a retrospective fashion, as has been the case for decades. I commend ufologists and UFO organizations who have, however, studied this phenomenon because it is significantly worthy of scientific investigation. We have learned a great deal, but we have only scratched the surface of our understanding of what governs and regulates the phenomenon. We understand their kinematic, physical maneuverability, which defies the laws of gravity and inertia, among many other things associated again with the physical parameters of the phenomenon. But that's not getting at the essence, the who, what, and whys of what is going on, which in my mind is a real phenomenon. There's no debate. Yet ufologists and non-ufologists continue to discuss whether or not the flying saucer, so to speak, crashed in Roswell or Rendlesham Forest, the Phoenix Lights, on and on. We're not going to advance our understanding by that type of analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the field is in disarray. It is highly fragmented. We have to adopt a new approach. And the new approach that Free is undertaking is trying to understand the impact of the experience on the individual. And maybe, not definitely, but possibly, we will gain some keen insights, which I believe we already have, to further our understanding of the essence of the phenomenon, and possibly even learn more about consciousness, non-locality, quantum physics, and we are applying theories of quantum physics in our investigation. And that might, again, I always must hesitate by saying might and if, it might provide us with an explanation as to the nature of the phenomenon.
Well, and I think this work that you're looking at doing, talking more about experiences, 20 years ago would have been pushing it. 40 years ago, I think, the number of people that would have come forward would have been a handful. And I think now we're in a period of time where people are much more forthcoming, especially in an environment that they feel safe. I mean, I don't know that they would tell their neighbor or tell their church group, but in an environment that they feel safe, I think people are more open to sharing their experiences where, like I said, 40 years ago, not so much.
Yeah, I agree, and nevertheless, there is that fear of ridicule, understandably, and people are reluctant for many reasons not to divulge this information. And Free also provides that support group for those who have had an experience and are reluctant to share it. But we do have many experiences on our board of directors, and that is another component of our mission to provide the necessary counseling to those who wish to discuss it further. But research is the primary focus, and yes, the incidence of I hate to use the term abductions by ETs, but we'll use it for simplicity's sake. But but that incidence is probably highly underreported for that ridicule factor. But nevertheless, we have again over 2,200 responses to our surveys, over 850 to our phase 3 or qualitative study, and we're going to definitely have 50 plus in the interview process. And that those numbers will expand considerably over time.
Um, considering Excuse me. Considering that you have a number of researchers on this board of directors, would it be safe for me to assume that you're using a fairly strict protocol for conducting this research?
Um, as much as possible through surveys and qualitative research. Uh, we can't 100% control for all confounding variables that might interfere with its reliability or validity, but it is certainly, without question, the first extensive academic slash scientific investigation of this type of phenomenon, the direct experience that people are undergoing, and the positive transformative aspects that it has on their behavior, which I'd like to get into when we start talking about some of the results obtained to date.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Um, so in this, is there the kinds of things that you guys are looking for, or are you just open to here's the data, what is it telling us? Is there a, I don't want to say a preconceived notion, but I think you know what I mean with that
yes,
question.
yes, and we have so much data and information. It represents an analytical challenge, certainly, but nevertheless, given the similarity of responses from such a large sample population, that does enhance the validity of the nature of the experience, which again is largely a positive one. And and we have utilized a very careful selection of questions that addresses six primary themes, such as the nature of the experience, um, um, the psychologic impact it has, the information that they receive from the, shall we say again, ETs, the transformative aspects of the experience that it has had on their personality, belief system, the types of ETs or entities that they experienced, and the physical interactions that occurred, as well as communication received in terms of the type of information and the manner in which communication was exchanged, which is telepathic in nature.
Interesting. So it sounds like even with, well, I mean, you have a pretty good group right now, but it sounds like with that group you're already seeing some results and some patterns and trends through that data.
There's no question, and very interestingly, while many books, ufologists, other researchers contend that the abduction scenario is largely a hellish, negative experience. We are finding just the opposite to be the case. Over 75% actually consider it to be a very positive experience. Not for everybody. Initially, it is a fearful one, obviously, because it's new, different, and scary for numerous reasons. But the majority of these individuals claim to have been abducted repeatedly. Over 30% say they've been abducted over 10 times. Surprisingly, 90% say they don't want their abductions to end. That,
Really?
that's how positive it is. And again, we're talking about a large data sample that are saying that 90%. 85% have gone through a positive, transformative change in the form of becoming more spiritual, again, as a result of their conscious recall of their, again, I don't like the term abduction, but we'll use it. Um, they become more spiritual, more psychic, more caring towards others, more loving in a humanistic way, more sensitive to the ecology, more giving, less materialistic, um, less religious, but more spiritual, less of an interest in organized religion. Um, Many become healers. Many have an enlightened consciousness. Many desire to focus their attention on enhancing their consciousness. they come away different, but again, in a largely positive way across a wide range of personality, beliefs, and other characteristics that they consider make them a better person.
But that's really interesting, especially in light of where you hear people talk about that these extraterrestrials, I mean, in particularly the Greys, who are always pinpointed as being the abductors, are emotionless, and you would think that regardless of the experience, that they would not have this emotional shift.
You know what's also interesting related to that good point you just made? Uh, Everyone has an understanding that grays are equated with UFOs. And yes, they certainly are reported. And again, I'm saying reported by those who have claimed to have conscious recall, not through hypnotic regression or lucid dreaming, which makes this a unique study in and of itself. Uh, but the most common entity reported being seen on board a craft is humanoid in appearance. Not exactly like you and I, but I guess the term we often use is Nordics. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they appear human with variations to the theme, but generally humanoid. Uh, and energetic or angelic beings are second in frequency, also close to 50%. Grays are up there too, in terms of the frequency of encounters, but you have that wide range of entities, the reptilians, the insectoids, among others. Um, so where they generate that positive experience from, we have yet to determine that in terms of the type of encounter based on the type of entity they interact with. We're starting to look at that, however. It's an important component. But uh, the encounters with humanoids are very positive, and they almost all say that they have those kinds of interactions. And Greys seem to, yes, are somewhat androidal, somewhat emotionless, don't really communicate. So they probably are not getting the positive feedback or sense, shall we say, from them directly,
Mm-hmm.
but from others.
Um, and it sounds like the people that are being taken, um, how do I want to phrase this? That if you've been taken 10 or more times, I mean, I definitely understand the fear factor. You have this very earth-changing, kind of traumatic experience because you don't know what's going on. But then after a while, you kind of get used to that. But I would also think in that early stage of getting used to it, your perception of these beings are going to be distorted. But after you become more comfortable and you're calmed down and you're not in this like hyper adrenaline state or whatever, that your perception of who they are and your ability to interact with them would uh, drastically change.
Yeah, well said. And it may even be analogous to the Stockholm syndrome, a level of adaptation associated with the experience. But
Interesting.
they realize that the collective experience is a very positive one because they have an heightened sense of oneness with the universe. They get the sense that love is the essence, the key to life. We all have that sense, yes, but they come away with it with a much more vivid, clear, confident uh, opinion, belief about that, based on their experience. They feel connected to the universe. They report again. We're talking about the vast majority of these individuals report an understanding of the meaning of life, of what life is all about. They understand themselves, they say, much better, and how to conduct themselves in a more humane caring, loving way. But they believe that there's a greater consciousness out there somewhere, and that there is a grand plan in motion that ETs are here to provide for us. And the fact, we can infer based on the fact that approximately 80% are coming away from these abductions, shall we say, with a very positive change to their personality, beliefs, etc., as I alluded to earlier. One might indirectly, I guess, conclude that on that basis alone, maybe the mission or objective of these non-human entities, if it's real, if it's valid, maybe their mission is to elevate the consciousness, spirituality of our planet on a one by one basis. Maybe, maybe. I'm not saying I buy this 100%. It could be a phenomenon in the human mind that we do not understand, or there are some extra dimensional entities that exist in our multidimensional universe that many leading quantum physicists contend does exist. And maybe we are seeing some evidence of that in the form of non-local communication or telepathic communication, teleportation by these entities who take people on board through walls and windows and cars into their ship. And what's also interesting is that the positive transformative changes that people report are comparable, are very similar to that reported by those who have a near-death experience. People familiar with the NDE literature understand that, and the parallels are strikingly
Interesting.
similar. And the question is, why? Are we talking about an aspect of consciousness that is distinct from the brain? Does it have implications, therefore, in terms of the continuity of consciousness after death of the physical body? As we see in NDEs when they're clinically defined as being dead, although I know there's considerable controversy there. In fact, I'm writing a book now on the afterlife, which is interesting to learn about many of the theories and pros and cons by scholars of today in terms of how they explain that. But are we looking at variations to the theme? Are we looking at paranormal phenomena that essentially are interrelated, as many people propose? In other words, whoever they are, may be able to access our reality. We, however, have difficulty, at least technologically, in doing so. But we see glimpses of this possibility by those who are abducted and experience this conscious component to life. Same is seen with those who have an NDE. They seem to feel that they, are not their body, that they are their consciousness. That is what is real. That is what is the essence of life. And they come away with that extraordinary cognition that love is the essence to all existence, and that we
Hmm.
are interconnected with the universe. Quantum physics says that. People's reports now say that, insofar as NDEs, OBEs, abductions, meditation, shamanism, the whole range, as you well know,
Hmm.
we're maybe talking about individual elements of a common foundation that are all somehow interrelated, or not, but I'm seeing hints of it. And as a trained scientist, I can't help but try to put pieces together to make sense out of this intriguing, enigmatic mystery that, for whatever reason, turns me and many millions on in terms of trying to get an answer. We're not going to get an answer. Unfortunately, I'll be long gone before we have a firm, irrefutable evidence as to what is happening. But I appreciate it, going along for the ride while I'm here. And maybe I'm always here. you know, Who knows?
Well, and I like looking at ancient literature, and we have a lot of material that comes out of Indian cosmology that talks about this other realm, this other place And I could see where someone that had a near death experience, they move out of the 3D reality into this higher vibrational level, and then get stuck back in the body, but that experience frees them, from the limited thinking that we're all programmed with.
Yeah, and they return with great repugnance and reluctance. They
Hmm.
don't want to. But they report, again, I'm not an expert in NDEs, but you well know, and I'm sure your audience is well aware, that they do come in contact with deceased relatives and possibly friends and angelic beings, call them God, whatever. And they are often told that they have to return because their mission is not complete, and they don't want to return. They just feel so much love. Likewise, 90% of the people who are being abducted by ETs don't want it to end. So here are we seeing the same
Interesting.
kind of reaction, in two different ways? There's something about it, and it's related to consciousness, the key, and we can possibly raise our consciousness and maybe even access that other reality beyond our physical senses through mystical meditation, through shamanism, in other words, maybe. And even people take ayahuasca, that mind altering drug, and people who do that claim that they have a similar type of reaction. I'm not advocating it, but the question is whether or not that's another alternative means of going beyond our 3D world to access that other dimension that might coexist with ours. And people like Stephen Hawking will, among others, Mikio Kaku and Wigner, Baum, Green, you name it, these leading physicists who will advocate for the multiverse.
Hmm.
These tiny wormholes that connect space and time and allow for beings from coexisting realities to access ours. The question is, maybe they have the technology, if that's what it takes, to do so.
But
But
see, I'm going to stop you there because you've mentioned technology twice. And I don't know that is a matter of technology.
no,
One of the things that I do know is that if we go back in our history or if we look at indigenous cultures around the world, there was always a vehicle to get them into some kind of ecstatic state, or at least the shaman. There was, minimally this select group, but many times it was the whole community that would, they would dance around the fire, and we look at them and go, oh, they're a bunch of primitives, but, their goal is to reach that dimension, and we have lost it. So if the technology is a fire and maybe a stick and a couple of drums, we already
no,
got that.
I appreciate your point, and I agree. We all get caught up with our 3D technological world, thinking possibly and in a biased fashion that maybe technology can provide us with the ability to access that other dimension. And you may probably be right. It's not a technological thing. It's a consciousness thing, not even a brain thing. Consciousness being distinct from the brain. The dualistic theory that Descartes proposed back in the 1600s. Yes, yes. I don't know if I stand entirely corrected, but yes, we can access that possibly non-technologically. I agree completely.
Well, and I don't know if they just use technology to get there, if they would have a good experience. I mean, it concerns me that people like that just casually go and they do ayahuasca or LSD. Well, we won't comment on that too much, but uh, but these drugs, in order to attain that level of consciousness, I mean, because you definitely have to take a certain amount to take you to that heightened state. And if you're not emotionally prepared and if you haven't evolved enough internally, I could see that being just a bummer of an experience on a conscious level.
So without question, one has to be very careful how to approach that. And I don't advocate certainly for taking ayahuasca or any kind of drug to expand one's consciousness. It's probably not the proper uh, way to approach that. But maybe being abducted is, although we can't snap our thumb and make that happen at will. But
I'm sorry, I'm kind of weighing out some good drugs, abduction.
yeah, and past life recall, reincarnation studies, apparitions, and other types of phenomena may very well all be tied in. And
Well, and let
unfortunately,
me
the
let me
community is not
ask you.
paid.
Thank you for watching this portion of our interview with Dr. Robert Davis. If you're enjoying today's program, please click on the button below and subscribe to our channel. If you want to hear this interview in its entirety, become a Just Energy Radio insider at justenergyradio.com and access full shows commercial free and gain access to our over 9 years of show archives. And don't forget to share this episode with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Until next time, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy. Be blessed.